So what are some of the diets that people come to right now, currently, that you have to go over?
Yeah, so I thought we could just kind of go through different diets, kind of their benefits and
Cool.
their cons and why they're successful. Which, if you're a client, you should know.
Right? If you're not a client, this is great for you. I mean, I think this could be very, very beneficial. Hey, what's going on? Welcome to Healthy Living Wichita podcast with Go Time Training. I'm your host, Raymond Elliott, lead personal trainer at Go Time Training in Northeast Wichita, Kansas. I've been in the fitness industry for over 20 years now, and I've seen it all. This podcast cuts through all the fads and gimmicks to give you a science-based truth on all things fitness and nutrition, so you don't have to try to figure it out on your own. If you want to live happier and healthier and get the scoop on how to work out, eat right, and keep a positive mindset, you're in the right place. It's go time. Now, let's get to the show. Back with Healthy Living Wichita. I always that's like my radio voice if I had one. Back on smooth, Healthy Living Wichita. Is that good? Anyways, so back on here today, guys. We are with our wonderful host or co-host, I guess. To say, well, you could be the host. You'll talk today. That's yeah. I'm just gonna be quiet. So you're like, no, that's not gonna happen. But Casey, our nutritionist, but you can tell us a little bit about you. Even though you've been on here before, we'll make sure to introduce you to everybody.
Yeah, so I'm one of the nutrition coaches here at Go Time. Been here, well, I guess it's almost 3 years in January. But so yeah,
it goes by fast.
I know.
Yes. So yeah, she takes care of a lot of our clients, and one of probably the biggest thing, especially when you're looking at health and cosmetics, is nutrition. So that's something that it's always a struggle for everybody. So you have some of the, I think, one of the most difficult tasks, just because nutrition is so complex. It's probably why it's fascinating to me, just because it's all over the place. Like, I feel like exercise and resistance training is very, very complex. And, nowadays, a lot of personal trainers have doctorates in their own laboratories, and there's probably more studies now than ever. But I think nutrition is just so much misinformation. And so when people come to me and they want a workout program, occasionally they'll get sidetracked from studies and things that they see on the internet and circuit training and high reps and toning and all those different aspects. But for most point, they listen to me and like, okay, whatever you say, Ray, that sounds good. Yeah. I feel like nutrition, there's so much stuff out there and so much media and so much stuff being pushed down to everybody, and people are not always very critical thinking or open-minded or whatever. Everybody wants the quick stuff.
Emotional about it.
Emotional, yeah. You probably know about more, but the moral of the story is I feel like there's a ton of crap out there, ton of different diets, and it's probably a lot more difficult because you're facing those different things and having to have those conversations where most people are listening to me, other than sometimes the cardio versus heavyweight training debate that I have to go through. So that being said, I'm sure that many people come to you. They have a lot of different diet things. There's a bunch of different diets out here right now, and it changes too. That's another thing. Yeah. Next month, it could be something. It could be something totally different. Whatever we decide to demonize and hate, or whatever magic. Everybody wants that cool magic solution, versus sometimes the non-sexier solutions, like moderate and eat healthier foods and try not to eat so much and move. But I'll let you go through this. So what are some of the diets that people come to right now, currently, that you have to go over?
Yeah, so I thought we could just kind of go through different diets, kind of their benefits and their cons, and why they're successful. Which, if you're a client, you should know.
Right? If you're not a client, this is great for you. I mean, I think this could be very, very beneficial, because my biggest thing when I fight against people on diets, I just want people to, if you're doing something to help you out, cool. My deal is just don't do things that are going to be more difficult on you, because diets already suck already. They're already hard. It's already difficult to eat less calories than what you burn. So why make it more of a problem if you don't have to, Yeah. So what's some of the popular diets right now that you would like to kind of say the benefits and the cons and pros to that you're hearing?
Yeah, so I guess hot topic is keto.
Uh-oh. This might be one of our most popular. Just saying keto automatically is going to get people to jump in on here. So
keto. It's obviously very high fat diet. Really, it's kind of low to moderate protein and then extremely low carbohydrate, so that you get into ketosis.
Right. It's really hard to do high fat and low protein, though, isn't it? To some degree, you would think.
Well, it's just like moderate protein, but protein can be transformed in the body into
right. It can kick you out of ketosis if you actually get too much protein. I don't think most people understand that, especially more of your high absorbing proteins that actually your body, because it likes carbs, it likes glucose, it actually will convert it into it, and then you can actually kick yourself out of keto. Even whey protein shakes can do that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess why people have success with it is fat in and of itself is really satiating.
Yeah.
So eating high fat foods, they might not need to eat as much. So that's what gets them into a calorie deficit, which is ultimately why you lose weight.
We already started out with that word, caloric deficit.
Yeah. So I think that's the main benefit, especially, well, just low carb in general. Yeah, it doesn't spike insulin as much. So, yeah, I think that's why people have success with it, is just because high fat is so satiating.
Right. Like fat releases like the CCK hormone. It's high satiating. You don't have those insulin spikes, so it might change hunger cues, but it doesn't have anything to do. I mean, I thought like carbs like automatically make you store fat, and the insulin fairy comes in and destroys your whole life, and that you'll put on 30 pounds if you look at something that has sugar in it. It doesn't have anything to do with that.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's like the main reason why people say that is it switches your fuel source, right? Well, kind of, if you can, since you're the expert, can you what is keto for people that don't know out there and is just kind of following along with those aspects? Like, what's the, I guess, ideology behind it, or the principle?
Yeah. So your body's preferred source of energy is carbohydrates, glucose. So when you deprive your body of that, then it will switch over to ketones, which is made from fats. So that's your body's energy source in ketosis. And so I guess kind of one of the things with keto is they say, well, you burn more fat. Well, it's just because you're intaking more fat, and then that is your energy source, so you're burning it. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you're losing more weight.
Yeah, I don't think people understand that. Just because you're burning more fat, it's like my car, I might have a higher energy car or that uses more gasoline, but if I'm giving it more gasoline, then it doesn't really matter, right? So yeah, you're burning more fat, but you're also taking in more fat.
Yeah.
So it pretty much zilches each other out. From the studies that I've seen, we talked a little bit about this on our last podcast with Jennifer, that really once they took account for protein, I think that was like the first on the studies they were doing this, and they were doing it at the same calories, like, well, keto's killing it. But they didn't take into account for protein, which has its own benefit for weight loss. And once they did that, they really didn't see much changes. In fact, some studies actually showed a moderate carbohydrate diet over time had greater weight loss, mainly I think because of like performance and lean body mass, but I don't remember all of it, and that could have changed last week. But from my understanding, that was pretty much so. When it really came down to, once again, it was kind of the calories in, calories out equation is what really mattered, and that keto not really has the spike of insulin, but the satiation effect to it. But it's difficult, right, to eat a high fat, low carb diet.
So the cons can, now high fat foods, it's generally lower in quantities. So although it's fat satiating, if you're not getting high quantities of food, sometimes you might not, high volume, then you might still feel hungry and overeat. And so then you might overeat on calories and still not lose weight. It's hard to stick to.
Yeah,
I mean,
that'd be very difficult.
You can't have
carbs.
fruit, really. Can't have a lot of so it's just hard to maintain long term. And then if that's what you lost weight on, now you're going back to eating carbohydrates. A lot of people struggle with how to maintain their weight loss from that.
I know that some studies have looked at, like, because you are taking a lot higher fats, which you're going to be looking at higher cholesterol in those aspects. And some people, I've seen studies where they're saying yes, it can have effect on heart disease, or they're saying others, because your body's utilizing more, that it's balancing that out, and you're actually utilizing more. And some people claim it to even be heart healthy, depending on what aspects on that. But
I think, but at least most Americans, the people that are the ketos, like the keto friendly foods that they're choosing, is going to be really high saturated fat foods.
It's bacon, right?
Yeah.
Bacon, cheese, all those good things, which sounds good. I like that. Yeah, and then what's like, I think it's also kind of debatable on performance. I've read different things where people still see performance, and I see where they've shown it, like in athletes, that there's lack of performance and that your body will start to utilize protein more. Because actually, when you go into ketosis, a lot of times people think fat, but your body also will use a lot of protein, which so there could be minimizing muscle. And I think that's where the moderate carbohydrates diets showed in long term.
Yeah.
That they may be beneficial. So is there stuff on performance? How's that like? Do you think people perform better, worse, or do we know?
Yeah, I think, well, I know like for sure endurance athletes, they suffer if you're not having carbohydrates. But then I think like the average gym goer can be okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're really trying to push like weights or something, then it's not the best either.
Yeah.
Just because once again, your body's preferred source of energy is glucose, so it's going to try to get that however it can.
Yeah. So what's your kind of ideas if you have somebody that comes to you that says they're doing keto? Is that something that you suggest maybe not doing because of the difficulty through it and because really it's not anything more magical than anything else? Or
yeah, I will like to ask them why they're on it, and then like what their goals are. So if they're endurance, then probably going to try to add more carbohydrates in, switch off of that.
So goal dependent, which is smart.
Yeah. But if it's someone that just heard keto was the best thing and doing it, then I just educate them on how carbohydrates are good for you. You're not going to gain weight from it.
And kind of empower them.
And then we normally kind of switch over, and it's okay to still have higher fats, but just adding in carbohydrates in.
Yeah, some people are a little bit more fat preference versus carb preference and trying to figure that out. And I mean, I know a lot of people, and we'll probably see in the comments. So if you already want to start shredding me and Casey on here, we're not saying it's a bad thing. I think that we've seen people that do keto, and I know that there's some aspects in the therapeutic things, people Alzheimer's, other different aspects. Was it seizures? There's a few different things that in a therapeutic setting that doctors I know that really push kind of calories in, calories out, like Spencer Nadolsky will say that he'll use ketogenic. So I think once again, if it's something that you like and it's a structure and something that you can follow and that's something that you can sustain for a long time, it might be beneficial. But there might be some, like everything, there might be some negative parts to it that might affect you a little bit differently than some other diets. And so you have to be kind of aware of that. So at least educating them on those potentials is good. But the main thing, once again, I think you're getting out of it, because I want to hit this a bunch of times, is that it's really that it just allows you to have a calorie deficit diet. And it's not really carbohydrates and insulin that is the main culprit of that. Your body can't really store something if it doesn't have it. If you're in a caloric deficit, so it doesn't really matter. Cool.
Law of thermodynamics will never change.
Oh, at least at this point. So I'm open to it because that's what good nutritionists will be open to it. And there's lots of studies out there, and trust me, there's a lot of people trying to minimize it, but so far I don't think it's held up water for most testing. What's another very popular diet that you see that people are doing a lot right now?
I think intermittent fasting has come up a lot. Yeah.
Yes.
There's a lot of different variations of it, whether it's fasting for 16 hours a day, eating for 8, or fasting a whole day. Yeah. And then all in between there. Yeah.
So what's some benefits with or what's some pros and cons, and what's your thoughts on it, Guru?
I think it can be good for some people if you're dieting and, like, let's say you're just really not hungry in the morning and you don't necessarily train in the morning. Then you just basically skip breakfast and then eat lunch and dinner and maybe have some snacks. I think that's okay for people. And for them, how they lose weight doing that is just because they're skipping a meal.
Right. Smaller window, right? Of how many, like, so you're telling me if I eat less throughout the day that I'm gonna lose weight? Yeah. So you mean if I don't eat for 6 or 7 hours that potentially could help me lose weight? Yep. It's crazy how that works.
Yeah. Yes. So some people just do better in the morning not eating, or maybe if they want to stop eating earlier in the day.
So you can skip breakfast and still be healthy and lose weight.
Yep. Won't ruin your metabolism.
Yeah, so I think it's actually good because that was a big thing for a long time. And I always tell people, like, meal timing, I think is a learned process. My thought, meal timing, yes, there's benefits to like protein synthesis and blood sugar and satiety and those things in meal timing. But really, meal timing for me was just learning kind of how to eat throughout the day to hit my numbers and I learned kind of like where I need my calories at and what I need to have a little bit longer in the day. And that's really kind of how I learned structure and what made me feel better when I worked out and not. And I think it was really just a really in tune learned thing. But sometimes it's good to have that structure, give yourself a window. It does give you a little bit of control. It might not really have much more benefit than just, once again, kind of a throughout the day eating cycle, but I guess it does allow structure, which for some people really good. Like you said, if you don't like to eat in the morning and it's, breakfast is not something that you need, it can kind of help you out and then give you a little bit more calories for a shorter period of time, which could open up, more fun foods, I guess, or different things.
Yeah, enjoy your foods a little bit more. But yeah, I mean, if you're someone that on the other end, like, is always starving in the morning, then I wouldn't recommend trying to skip.
I've tried it before. I think one benefit that I thought that I might enjoy from it is that with tracking, that I will say that's my downfall with like tracking, it makes you constantly think of food. And I've heard that benefit from like it can be like freedom, because it's like, you don't have to worry about eating. Me, I'm always like, what I'm going to eat next, especially when I'm really tracking. I'm like, what's the next food? Like, I'm eating my food thinking about what I'm going to fit in the next deal, what I'm going to eat next, what I'm going to meal prep, what am I going to do. And so my day kind of starts to surrounded by hitting those numbers and eating and meal prepping, where if, that you don't have to worry about eating anything for 6 or 8 hours. And that could be kind of freedom in that. So I've tried it, but I grew up in the bodybuilding era because I'm old, and back in those myths, we don't have to really debunk it too much anymore, even though I still see it every once in a while, whereas multiple meals eating every 1 to 2 hours or 2 to 3 hours spiked your metabolism. And we now kind of learned that that's not really true, and that if could come in effect, you could still have the same metabolism eating for a 4-hour window versus all day. But I just learned that habit, and so I'm kind of a grazer, as you knew. I eat like 12 bars a day, and I just eat like every 2 to 3 hours something most of the time. So
so for people like that, and even if you didn't grow up bodybuilding era,
that's what we called it.
Yeah, but if you just like eating frequently, or like I said, eating in the morning or something, then I definitely don't recommend it for those people, because then it's just going to be harder for you to do, and it's harder to maintain, and we're all about maintenance here.
Yes, of course, yes. And I think it's a good strategy to like maybe learn on how to like maybe take yourself a little way, because you're going to have time, especially if you're tracking, you're looking at the calories in, calories out things. There's some times that you're like, okay, I've already kind of ate a lot. I'm going to have to go a little bit longer throughout my day before I eat again or spend some money.
Yeah.
I always think of it like a bank account. We got people in the background there. Some people also like say if gives them, and we won't go into too much of the science. We'll try to give it like cell regeneration and that stuff, and it gives yourself time. But it's also kind of like with keto. Some people feel like it gives them like a lot of clarity, and like I hear that with keto a lot of times too. They don't have that carb brain, which I don't know exactly what that means, but I had it carb brain when I didn't get enough carbs. I already forget a lot of things, so it was horrible. But that they feel a little bit more clarity when they do if or ketogenics. Is there?
I think for a lot of those people, they're eating better overall.
Yeah.
Especially like maybe with keto, you're not having donuts or cookies anymore, and just like going over calories that way, and that is maybe causing some issues.
The only thing I worry about keto too, kind of going back to it, and I hate to go back and forth, is just like not getting in enough fruits, and I know they do say vegetables and things like that, but those are so micronutrient dense, and I worry about people's nutrients. If obviously you could, it doesn't. I mean, if it doesn't really change your diet plan. I think some people actually utilize it because they can throw more calories in. They can feast and famine a little bit more, and they could throw. My wife kind of did if as well. I don't know if she really did accidentally or like on purpose, but she would go long times without eating, and then she would kind of eat not so healthy meals all the time, but she was still able to lose weight loss because she had a smaller amount of windows for her calories to consume. Yeah. So it was kind of beneficial because she could add some higher calorie foods and still would be within goal.
Yeah, so that it can be easier to maintain. But then you just also have to make sure you're not like getting to the point of being starving and like still starving when you go to eat and then overeat. Because even though you're eating in even a 5-hour window, you can still overeat. Right. If you eat a whole pizza or whatever it is, you can still go over your calories for the day.
Yeah, it doesn't. Well, I think I've done that. I think with dieting, I've been to where I've binged and probably ate 5,000 or 6,000 calories easy in a matter of an hour or so. So yeah, it can happen in those aspects. So if you're starving and then you're going into those feeding times and you're just killing everything, you can still go over. And if you're not looking at, I mean, that's the thing with like keto and if sometimes, which if you can also everything could be. everything could be on calories. So you can do keto on a calorie goal. You can do, if people like don't realize that, but the same thing with paleo. There was no calorie content. It was just like, if you eat these foods, you're going to lose weight. But if you're not looking at that and you're just thinking because you're fasting for this time, that's going to be the magic solution, you still can go over your calories in that aspect. So
so it still comes down to being in a calorie deficit. But intermittent fasting just helps you eliminate a meal, so it's easier to stay in the calorie deficit.
Right. Yeah. You have less of a window to overeat. Yeah. So that's kind of the moral through here. So a lot of these things really are just basically, they're just different strategies for caloric deficit, but everybody thinks that there are these magic solutions, but really when it comes down to them, they're nothing magical. They're just helping us get in that calories in, calories out circumstance. Circumstance, is that the right word for it? You know me. So is there any other diets that were popular? I think those are the two most popular ones I could think of right now. And do you think if is, I mean, I don't really think if is that bad of a thing for most of my clients. I think if it fits their strategy, and I think it actually might be something more sustainable than I would say keto for most people, in my opinion.
And I tell clients too, you don't have to be so strict on it either. Like for me, I try to push back my eating, but it's not normally very long. But so you don't have to like have a label on it.
You don't have to like have set hours, because they have like there's lots of different ifs, which we could go through, but we only have like 30 minutes. So
sometimes I'm hungry at 8 a.m. Sometimes I'm hungry at 10 a.m. So just kind of eat when I'm hungry, or start eating when I'm hungry.
Right.
That's
You remember the original if was no eating after 6, no carbs after 6, or no eating after 6, because it automatically, your metabolism slowed down. That might have been before your time, but that was like everybody, which some people still do that strategy where they don't eat after, a certain time of night, and, maybe feel a little bit better, not having as much gut distress through the evening. And that's once again a way to lower a meal.
Yeah. Or if you have trouble snacking at night, sometimes just having like the hard cutoff can be helpful. But once again, it's just because you're not eating those snacks that take you over your calories.
I remember I went to a nutritional seminar, and the guy was like, you can eat, you can literally fall asleep with food in your mouth as long as you're in caloric deficit. And this was like 15 years ago, and I was like roasting him. Like, that's so stupid. Like, he's an idiot. Like, there's no way. Like, you shouldn't eat at night, and insulin spikes, and you have that through, and your metabolism slows down in the evening. You're going to put all that to fat. I was an idiot, so I have to apologize. So all my clients I trained about 15 or 20 years ago, I'm sorry. I've learned a lot from them, and I'm still trying to. So it's difficult. I want to do the same thing. Clean eating every 2 to 3 hours, couldn't eat carbs past night, insulin. I went all those things 15 years ago. I'm just sad to see that they're so still dominate a lot of those things into the industry. But I'm glad we're learning, and we have education. We have wonderful people like you to help share and muddle through that. And that's really what this podcast is about. Anything else? Any other hot topics, hot diets out there that you want to talk about?
I was going to bring up paleo. It kind of goes into like clean eating type.
Paleo's on its way out a little bit.
Yeah. But just kind of like, I guess, clean eating is, once again, you can still, although you're eating you're eating a lot of nutrient dense foods that typically are high volume. So it's hard to go over calories. But if you you still can go over calories. If you add a bunch of oil to everything, eating a bunch of avocado, whatever it is, you can still go over calories and still not lose weight.
Yeah, so. Some healthy foods have a lot of calories. Like we're talking about keto, oil is per volume the most most calorie dense, not macronutrient because it's high fat, most calorie dense food on the planet. So it doesn't take very much oil to add a lot of calories to a meal. In fact, if you're bulking, it's probably a good strategy.
Yeah, 1 tablespoon is 120 calories. So
yeah,
who uses 1 tablespoon when they are cooking?
No, I never use 1 tablespoon in anything. I have in peanut butter when I've actually weighed it on a scale, which is still shocking to me today, but not anymore. I haven't weighed peanut butter for a while. So, but yeah, paleo. I remember that was extremely popular, and once again, it's still not a bad strategy. I mean, a lot of times people eat paleo-ish, but so when you put yourself in those boxes, you sometimes take away your empowerment and you make things novelties, and you want to fight against those for some reason. That's human nature, right? We don't like to be told what to do, and so when you make those decisions, it's totally different. It's just like when I train my wife. If I tell her to do something, she doesn't want to do as much. But if she makes those decisions, then she's more than happy to do it. So I think that's what we need to figure out and educate ourselves. Have somebody to support and ask those questions and be open-minded. There's also like carnivore diet out there, which I don't think we'll have enough time to get on to, but I never thought I would live in a world where vegetables and fruit would be demonized, but here I am. So
I know, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, which I could, carnivore diet, I like lean meats, and I've had to struggle with that just because those are demonized as well. So I think less demonizing things, less
not to label foods as good or bad.
Yeah. Just change your mindset. I think that's probably, I would say that's probably some of your biggest wins with your clients is their mindset when I talk to them and they have those aha moments and they learn that some of these things that you're talking about today, that's when things are great. Like losing weight, awesome. I mean, it's amazing. That's what our goal is, for people to be healthier and lose weight. But when their mind is changing, that's super powerful.
Yeah. And they can take that with them. Mindset for the rest of their life.
Well, that's the idea, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Same way. That's why I apologize, because when I go back, is like I didn't give anybody any tools. I just told them what to do and kind of, was mad at them when they didn't do it, and I didn't help them out at all. And they probably, a lot of them, potentially gain that weight back. So I'm glad that we're doing something that's going to be lifetime. So, if you guys have questions, concerns, want to yell at us, want to debate, whatever, I think me and Casey both agree that we just care what people are doing healthy, but we want to make sure that you're doing something that's actually going to get results and something that you can sustain. So as long as you hit all three of those things, if it's keto, if paleo, whatever it is, I think we're cool with it.
Yep.
But really, it really comes down to, it all comes down to what?
Maintenance, being able to
maintenance. And what all new diets come in that work?
Oh, calorie deficit.
Yeah, calorie deficit. Calories in and out. So that's the main thing. I think when you focus on that changes the rest of the world. Then you can have a lot of options.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. You have anything else you want to add?
I don't think so.
I lied about not talking too much, didn't I?
No, you're
Damn
good.
Okay. Or dang it. We'll bleep that out. All right. Well, Healthy Living Wichita, thank you guys so much. Let us know if you have any questions. We'll feel free. Any other diets or nutrition things that you want to talk about, we can always have Casey back on here. She's always amazing. We always appreciate you. I know you're at. So,
Yeah, thank you.
We'll talk to you later. Thank you for listening to the Healthy Living Wichita podcast with Go Time Training. If you enjoyed today's show and want to get started with your own fitness journey, I'd love to help kickstart your goals. How do 4 60-minute personal training sessions for $99 with me sound? Head over to www.gotimetraining.com/podcast to claim yours. I can't wait to meet you.